All right, so let's take a look at pages 3 and pages 4 of our mid-chapter review here. So after page 2, we're still continuing on using our graphing calculator to help us graph these and find the solutions. So when I look at number 2 here, I'm still needing to get it in standard form, basically getting it equal to 0. So I need to subtract 1 from both sides of the equation. In doing so, I get negative x squared minus 2x minus 1 equals 0. So I'm going to use my graphing calculator to help me graph this. So I'll plug into my y equals negative x squared minus 2x minus 1. Go ahead and hit graph it. So I can see that this one here, it looks like it's just touching the x-axis at negative 1. So I'm going to go to my table and look specifically right at negative 1, and look at that. It's actually 0. So I'll put that value right smack here in the middle, negative 1. I know it's 0. So that tells me my answer is x equals just negative 1. I only have one solution. So to help me with my graphing, just like I did before, just adding another one just so I get it so that it's nice and symmetric. So let's see here. This will be negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Again, just pulling this right from my calculator, going 0, 1, 2. So then this would be negative 1, negative 4, negative 9 in both directions. So now I can graph that. Negative 1, 0. And it was opening down. A was negative. That makes sense to me. It's kind of a way I can check. Left and right 1, down 1. Left and right down 3. And left and right down 5. And I have my parabola. All right, let's take a look at then number 3. So number 3 is really nice in the fact that I don't have to get y by itself. So I'm going to just plug that right into my calculator. X squared minus 6x plus 3. Go ahead and hit graph, get a good picture of it. So I can start to see it looks like it's crossing between 0 and 1. And probably somewhere out here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between 5 and 6. So when I go to my table, I want to make sure I'm looking at values right around there. And so actually, this is actually pretty darn nice the way it's starting at. And I can actually see right there's my vertex at 3, negative 6, because I'm getting that kind of symmetric pattern. So I can go ahead, put that vertex right in the middle, 3, negative 6. So 2, 1, 0, 4, 5, 6. And then I can go ahead and start writing in all the rest of the values. Sorry. So I'm just, again, writing these in right from the table. So I'm now looking for where does it change from positive to negative and negative to positive. So I can actually see one solution is between 0 and 1. And the other solution is between 5 and 6. Again, I am going to take a second to graph it. So 3 down 6. So 2, 4, 6. Get the point. So I always like with that vertex. Then I can go right and left up 1, left and right up 3, and left and right up 5. And I got my parabola. All right, so that takes care of learning target for 3.2. So last page is the learning target for 3.3. I will be able to perform operations with imaginary and complex numbers. All right, so these, remember, we just got to remember that I is equal to the square root of negative 1, and that anytime we get I squared, that equals just negative 1. So like on the first two here, the square root of negative 144. The thought process is, well, that's just negative 1 times the square root of 144. Square root of 144 is 12. Square root of negative 1 is I. So I have 12i. On the second one, okay, I'll just put it in better order on this one. 81 and negative 1, so we get 9i. On the next ones, actually on like the next four, we're either adding or subtracting. So this is where we add or subtract the real parts. So here we're asked to go 4 plus 9, so that's 13. Then we're asked to go 3i plus negative 5i, 3 minus 5, negative 2i. On the next one, it's subtraction. So 7 minus 3 is 4. Negative 2i minus 6 more I makes negative 8i. And we have that answer. On the next one, subtraction. 5 minus 6, negative 1. Negative 3 minus 4, minus 7i. Again, you're just combining the real parts and the imaginary parts. 8 plus 4, 12. Negative 7i plus negative 3i minus 10i. And look at that, we've already done all the addition and subtraction problems. 6 problems are already done. All right, now the multiplication ones. Here's where we foil. So multiply first, outer, inner, last. So I am going a little bit faster, just because otherwise this video will be super long. 3 times 7, 21. 3 times negative 4i minus 12i. 2 times 7, 14i. 2i times negative 4i is minus 8i squared. So now I want to combine like terms and simplify. So this negative 8i squared, remember I squared is negative 1, it changes it to a positive 8. Because the I squared is negative 1 times negative 8, positive 8. 8 and 21 now make 29. Negative 12 and 14i make 2i. And lickety split, got that one done. All right, the next one. Again, we distribute, or we FOIL, and combine like terms. So 30 plus 20i minus 18i minus 12i squared. So hopefully by doing a few of these, you start to see a pattern. So I'm always going to be taking kind of this last term and changing the sign, because the negative I squared is negative 1, changing that negative 12 to positive 12. 12 and 30 now make 42. 20 minus 18i is 2i. So I have 42 plus 2i. Last one on the multiplication. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times negative 2i is minus 16i. I times 3 is 3i. I times negative 2i is minus 2i squared. So now, again, just like we've been doing here, the minus 2i squared becomes positive 2. 2 and 24 make 26. Negative 16i and 3i make minus 13i. And we are done with the multiplication. All right, the division, this is where we multiply the top and bottom by the conjugate. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom one here by the conjugate of the denominator. I'm trying to get I out of the denominator. So the conjugate is just simply where I change the sign in the middle. So on the top, I have to just simply distribute. So I get 15 plus 6i. In the bottom, I actually have to FOIL. So on this one, I'm actually going to show you all the steps, but as I've shown in class, you don't necessarily really have to do the middles. So 5 times 5 is 25. Outside is 10i. The inside is minus 10i. And the last is minus 4i squared. So the minus 4i squared is really 4. The middles cross out. So I'm left with 15 plus 6i all over 29. All right, number 11, same process. I'm going to multiply by 3, though, plus 4i. So again, the conjugate of the denominator is I change that sign. So right here, I'm multiplying by 3 plus 4i. So when I do the top, I get 18 plus 24i. In the bottom, now this is where I'm going to save myself some time because it's really the first multiplied together, 9. I know the outside and inside are going to cancel, so I'm going to have minus 16i squared. That minus 16i squared is really 16, so I have 18 plus 24i all over 25, since 9 plus 16 makes 25. All right, so that takes at least care of simplifying imaginary numbers. Now how do we solve? So here we're trying to get x by itself. So just start to do your inverse operations. Minus 196. So we have 4x squared equals negative 196. Divide both sides by 4. X squared equals negative 49. When we take the square root of both sides, don't forget the plus minus square root, negative 49. So now, if we think about that, the negative is I, square root of 49 is 7, so I have 7i. Miss Bart's almost forgot to put that plus minus in front. So I have plus or minus 7i. All right, last one, same process. Minus 242. So 2x squared equals negative 242. All right, the negative didn't show up nicely there. Divide both sides by 2. X squared equals negative 121. Square root both sides, don't forget plus or minus. Square root of negative 121. So x equals, the square root of 121 is 11. Oops, I almost again. We have plus or minus 11, and then the negative is the I. So x equals plus or minus 11i. Again, one of the things that you'll see and discover, even as we go on later in chapter 3, is that when we have complex roots or imaginary solutions, you're always going to have two of them, one positive and one negative. All right, that ends the video.